It took 7 families 2 years, but a group of homeowners in Peebles on the Scottish borders has taken on a housing giant to have their crumbling new build homes repaired. The families live on a development of 250 homes built by the firm Taylor Wimpey. 2 years ago, they discovered issues with the quality of the mortar with which their homes are built. Back in 2018, our investigation found similar complaints about weak mortar across at least 13 estates in the UK, all built by different companies. Now, after a long-running dispute with Taylor Wimpey, the developer has apologised to all 130 households affected, saying it's a localised issue and saying they're fully committed to resolving it. Our reporter Jim Reid has this exclusive story.
We had a huge investment put down in this house and we just started to see it disappearing.
We started to see scaffolding going up on houses and then people started to disappear, which was very disconcerting. It is very sinister.
Peebles in the Scottish borders is just an hour south of Edinburgh. The schools are decent, crime is low.
My husband's locally born Peebles person.
Sheila Chalmers moved here with her husband 10 years ago.
So my family and my friends could come and stay.
Her home was one of 250 built by the housing giant Taylor Wimpey on a brand new site.
That's a good one that actually shows the erosion.
2 years ago though, rumours went round of a problem, all to do with the mortar holding the bricks together.
Same problem, same cable tie.
It started with Sheila's neighbours. Overnight, families would just vanish, but there were no for sale signs and no one was moving back in.
It became almost a ghost street. Houses were emptying, people were disappearing, but nobody could talk.
So your suspicion at the time was that people were being bought out?
At that time, yes. Taylor Wimpey's solution at the beginning of this was to buy back the homes and silence the homeowners with non-disclosures.
Taylor Wimpey said they only offered to buy a small number of houses back at an early stage before Sheila and the rest of the estate found out what was going on. In late 2016 though, a letter went round from the company saying there was a problem with the mortar sticking the bricks together in some properties.
You didn't think there was a problem with your house?
No.
At that stage?
No, at that stage no. And then after the Taylor Wimpey letter arrived, we went out and inspected our house, and right enough, the mortar was eroding away and you could scrape areas out with your fingernail. So behind here, this is the elevation where the kitchen is, behind the plant. We have a hole that is now, it's right through to the inner structure.
And that is not where you've done anything to it or work's been done on the house or anything like that? No,
not at all. That's just an area that's completely lost its mortar. We pulled the plant away and here's another great big gaping hole.
So the family got some legal advice and paid to have their own laboratory tests. Mortar is made from sand and cement. The results suggested Sheila's house contained far more sand than would be considered normal for houses in this area.
We have 89.8% sand, 90.4% sand, 91.2% sand.
So when you got these results back?
Devastated.
More sand means the material is weaker and more likely to erode, though Taylor Wimpey said the tests Sheila and other households used were not appropriate.
We love our home, we love living here. We felt at that time, if there was a problem, Taylor Wimpey would step up and rectify the problem, no questions asked. That's what we thought would happen, but it turned out to be quite something else.
So what went wrong on this estate? Well, we've seen maps showing around 130 homes were built with mortar far weaker than recommended by the main industry body. In 2013, a memo was sent out by the National House Building Council to developers warning of this exact problem.
We have spent £16,000 in structural engineering fees, mortar analysis and legal fees.
You got £16,000?
No, we don't. It's all on debt. Taylor Wimpey have pushed us down the line of forcing us into debt to do this. It's been really tough.
You felt there was no choice though?
No choice. These developers, these companies cannot be allowed to continue their destruction of people's lives with building shoddy homes. Somebody has got to stand up, show them that they can't get away with this continually.
Taylor Wimpey said the weaker mortar used on most of this estate is of sufficient strength to meet structural requirements, a view backed by the local council. But it accepts it might be less durable under prevailing exposure conditions.
You can see the dust gathering on the...
Sheila commissioned 2 structural engineers. Both said full repair work was needed on her home, though Taylor Wimpey said their own inspections found that was not the case. 3 doors down live Pete and Jill Hall with their 13-year-old son. Like Sheila, they were told their house didn't need major repair, and Taylor Wimpey has never offered to buy it back. The family, though, wanted proof, so they had tests done.
Then we got the results back, fully expecting that it would come back and they would say everything's fine.
I'm guessing it didn't.
No.
Houses are built with bricks and mortar, aren't they? It doesn't get much basic than this. Only one sample was actually meeting the required strength of the mortar for the house. And in fact, some of the readings on the garage, there's no reading because it's actually scientifically designated as sand.
Weak mortar starts to erode more quickly when it's exposed to the weather.
When the engineers were coming, each one of them stuck their screwdriver straight through.
When it's wet, the problem on the garage wall becomes even more visible.
You can make a sand castle with that, one of each. And this is holding up our garage.
As it became clear that more houses were affected, so a group of families on the estate came together. In 2017, some of the group had a meeting described as heated with Taylor Wimpey's lawyers. Pete's solicitor soon received a letter back.
We had everything and we just went through it and go, here are your options. You can fix the house as it should be fixed. You can demolish the house and rebuild it as it should be built, or you can buy us back. At that point, they got very worried, and you will like this. They sent us a proceeds of crime threat letter to say that
from Taylor Wimpey.
This is from Taylor Wimpey solicitors to say, if you keep on going down this line, we will prosecute you on proceeds of crime.
So they're basically accusing you here of effectively
trying to bribery, basically. Now, when we received this, when I received this from the solicitors, it took me about 10 minutes to stop laughing. This is intimidation. This is a threat. And I read it and went, they've got no grounds.
Pete and Jill had already hired their own structural engineers. Their report came back saying it would be safer if they moved stuff out of the garage as it was at risk of collapse, though Taylor Wimpey has always denied there was a structural problem. So the family bought a giant shipping container, covered it with warning stickers and left it on the front drive. That, they said, got Taylor Wimpey's attention, and 2 years on, an offer has now been made.
It falls short of where we think the proper full repair should be, but they have basically turned around and said it's that or nothing. So we are now in a position where we've accepted it and it will go ahead.
We have to accept it, no option.
Taylor Wimpey has now sent out letters offering repair work to all houses in the estate built with the weaker mortar. Properties are being dealt with one at a time. Builders are scraping out the mortar and replacing it with stronger material. The firm told us, "We sincerely apologise to the homeowners affected. We are fully committed to resolving matters. This is a localised issue and falls short of the high quality standards we uphold." It has now apologised to Sheila and said even though its own inspections found it might not be needed, work to replace the mortar in her home will start this summer. It will also refund money she spent on legal and technical costs. Repair work on Pete and Jill's property should be finished by September. The couple say they soon plan to move their shipping container off the front drive.
If you had your time all over again, would you still have bought this place or would you have gone elsewhere?
I wouldn't. No, I would have said no.
The experience that we've had and the pressure that it has put our family under over the last 2 years, I would never buy a new house again.
This programme is aware of houses in more than a dozen estates across the country, all made by different firms with a similar mortar problem. The government is in the process of bringing in stronger rules meant to protect new home buyers. Until then, customers up and down the country are left very much fighting for themselves.
Talk about new build homes and the fact that some of them are crumbling because apparently of weak mortar with Phil Waller, who is a retired construction manager and campaigner on new build homes. And this is an issue, Phil, I think right across the industry, right across the company. It's not just about one company, is it?
Not about one builder, excuse me, it's not about one area of the country. I've had people contacting me from lots of different builders in nearly every area in the country. And
How
the people
widespread is the problem there?
Well, the people that contact me are just one person. The chances are on that estate, every house is affected by this issue. And the house builders want to keep this quiet because if they have to do work to one house, they're going to have to do it to every house on the estates.
Well, we continue to report on it, so it's not
As
very quiet anymore.
No.
Why is it happening?
The industry switched to silo mixed mortar, which is delivered from a lorry pre-mixed at the factory, and the site just add water. And I don't think the quality control at these manufacturers is sufficient to guarantee that there's enough cement in the mix. And also they're allowed to do a design mix, which isn't a certain proportion of cement. Their mix just has to reach like 4 newtons for an M4. So they could put chicken newton.
Doesn't mean anything.
Well, they could put chicken manure in it, providing the water is strong enough. Then it will pass their test. That's what they would supply,
right?
Irrespective of how durable it would be.
Okay. So who does the quality control when it's being mixed? Is it the companies or
the mortar manufacturers test it at their factory?
Right.
Sample testing, not every batch. And when it's on site, it's just on site. There's no test taken on site, apart from what your buyers do once they find they've got a problem.
Okay. But sand is cheaper, obviously.
Yes, definitely.
So is it to do with saving some money, or?
It could be. They're using cement substitutes. I've heard of that, and that's to do with the cost of producing cement.
I want to ask you about the use of non-disclosure agreements or gagging clauses. Taylor Wimpey isn't the only house builder to use them. We've seen evidence of their use across the industry, although we don't know actual numbers. That's hard to sort of pin down. What do you think of the fact that these gagging
I can see it makes good business sense for the house builders concerned because they want to keep their dirty washing under wraps. But I think in a spirit of openness and transparency, I think they should be open and honest and publish what's wrong with these houses.
And finally, the government said last year that they would put in place a new homes ombudsman. It's something that you've been campaigning about for a long time. Where is this new housing ombudsman?
Well, the latest I've read on the internet is James Brokenshire, who's the Housing Secretary, is talking about a shadow new home ombudsman in shadow form until there's sufficient parliamentary time to legislate for the statutory new home ombudsman. And quite frankly, I hope he's watching your programme and seeing the anguish of these poor people who don't deserve to be treated like this by PLC companies. And if I was Peter Redfern or Taylor Wimpey, I'd be going up there on this weekend to talk to these people and personally apologise, because I think it's unfair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Phil. Phil Waller, who is a retired construction manager.